Hello friends, my name is Catherine and welcome to Storytime. Let's start with our welcome song. Welcome, 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 welcome. How are you? How are you? Very well, thank you. Very well, thank you. How about you? How about you? Welcome friends. Why don't we start with a fun song today? I have some friends to help us out. And this one's called Little Green Frog. Here we go. And frogs go, out went the little green frog one day. Ah went the little green frog. Ah went the little green frog one day. And they all went, ah. But we know frogs go, sha-na-na-na-na, sha-na-na-na-na, sha-na-na-na-na. We know frogs go, sha-na-na-na-na. They don't go, ah. Well, we also have our friend Little White Lamb, and they go ba. Here we go. Ba ba went the little white lamb one day. Ba ba went the little white lamb. Ba ba went the little white lamb one day, and they all went ba ba ba. But we know lambs go shooby dooby doo, shooby dooby doo, shooby dooby doo. We know lambs go shooby dooby doo. They don't go ba ba ba. Okay, we have one more friend. This is Long Red Snake, and they go hiss. Can you make that sound? Hiss, hiss went the long red snake one day. Hiss, hiss went the long red snake. Hiss, hiss went the long red snake one day. And they all went hiss, hiss, hiss. But we know snakes go ba-zing-a-ling-a-ling, ba-zing-a-ling-a-ling, ba-zing-a-ling-a-ling. We know snakes go ba-zing-a-ling-a-ling. They don't go hiss, hiss, hiss. Thanks for singing that with me, friends. That song's always so fun to sing. Well, there's music everywhere if you listen, from the animals that we hear to all the everyday sounds. So for our first story, let's see what this person does with all of those sounds he hears. It's called The Music of Life by Louis Thomas. At night, when everyone else is asleep, you can be sure that an artist, someone somewhere, is awake. Artists love to create at night. Lenny is an artist. He's a music composer. I'm going to write a symphony tonight, he said to his cat Peepo. But he'd been sitting at his desk for hours, and not a single note of music had come to mind. In front of Lenny, there was simply a blank page. He was starting to feel stuck, when suddenly Peepo gave him an idea. Lenny ran to his blank page to write it down, and then blick, block, block. Oh, what is this? The leaking sink gave Lenny another idea. It's not a symphony, but it feels like music. So he wrote those notes down too. And before the sun was even up, Lenny heard birds gathering in the trees. Tweet, tweet, tweet. Do you hear what I hear, Peepo? Lenny asked his cat. More ideas are floating up to my ears. Below his window in the dark streets before dawn, Lenny saw his neighbors begin to stir. Miss Donielle was riding by on her bicycle. Ding, ding, ding. The corner baker was rolling up the shutters. And just there, a dog was barking. Woof, woof, woof. It's not a symphony, but it feels like music, Lenny told Peepo as he wrote down those notes too. That's when bzzz, bzzz,
He heard another idea. I should go outside, Lenny said. There will be even more music in the park. So he ran. Squick, squick, squick. He passed the beehives. Bzz, bzz, bzz. Beyond them, the park was full of sounds, full of notes. The baby was laughing. The gardener was raking. The motorcyclist was speeding. Vroom. The squirrels were nut cracking. Crick, quack, crack. Snails were passing by in silence. Silences are important in a symphony, thought Letty. The pigeons were cooing. Goo-roo, goo-roo. The jogger was huffing. The ducks were quacking. Quack, quack, quack. Oh, yes, said Lenny. Now this feels like a symphony. Ding, ding, ding. Tweet, tweet, tweet. Quack, quack, quack. Bzz, bzz, bzz. Quack, quack, quack. Woof, woof. Blick, pluck, pluck. Blick, pluck, pluck. Squick, squick, squick. Goo-roo, goo-roo. Ding, ding, ding. Bzz, bzz. Tweet, tweet, tweet. The symphony of life. As Lenny walked home later that morning, he looked down at his paper. It wasn't blank at all. It was full of notes, full of ideas, full of life. The end. I hope you enjoyed that story. So why don't we do a couple of rhymes and songs where we make our own sounds and music? So for the first rhyme, after every line, if you can clap twice like this, you can help me out. Here we go. Behind the tree, clap, clap, and under the house lived a teeny tiny mouse. She loved to sing, she loved to tap, but most of all, she loved to clap. She clapped all night, she clapped all day. She clapped to frighten the cat away. Frighten the cat for her. Okay. So let's do one more song. And this one we're going to pat our knees like this when we sing a ram sam sam. When we say gooly gooly gooly, you can do this and roll your arms. And we say arafik, you shake your hands up like this. And this is a fun song from Morocco. Here we go. A ram sam sam, a ram sam sam, gooly 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 ram sam sam, a ram sam sam, a ram sam sam, gooly 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 ram sam sam. A rafik, gooly 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 ram sam sam. A rafik, gooly 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 ram sam sam. Very good, my friends. Thank you for doing those rhymes with me. Well, for our last story today, we've really heard lots of sounds in our everyday life, but this little boy explores the sound of silence. By Katrina Goldsaito, art by Julia Kuo. Little Yoshio wiggled with anticipation. 3, 2, 1. He threw open the front door. The sounds of the city swirled all around him. Tokyo was like a symphony hall. Yoshio listened to the sound of his boots squishing and squashing through the puddles, and the tiny raindrops pattering on his umbrella. The sound of his giddy giggles made him giggle more. Suddenly, Yoshio heard the strangest sound. High, then low, squeaky and vibrating. Amazing! It was a koto player, carefully tuning her instrument. Then the koto player played. The notes were twangy and twinkly. They tickled Yoshio's ears. When the song finished, Yoshio said, "Sensei, I love sounds, but I've never heard a sound like that." The koto player laughed, and it sounded like the metal bell that swayed in the wind in Mama's garden. "Sensei," Yoshio said, "do you have a favorite sound?" "The most beautiful sound," the koto player said, "is the sound of of silence." "Silence?" Yoshio asked, but the koto player just smiled a mysterious smile and went back to playing. Yoshio bowed to the koto player and ran to school. "Where can I find silence?" Yoshio wondered as he listened to the thwack of his boots on the pavement. He listened for it through the school day, but there was always some kid making noise. At recess, the sun came out, and Yoshio went to the quietest place he knew, the bamboo grove at the edge of the playground. But even there, the bamboo made a taka-taka-taka sound as the wind banged its stalks together. He closed his eyes and heard the swish, swish, swish of the wind, making the leaves talk. It was beautiful, but it wasn't silence. Walking home from school, Yoshio listened hard. He could hear the horns of buses and the whoosh of the bullet trains and the beep, beep, beep of the traffic lights, but no silence. Yoshio knew so many different sounds, loud and soft, sudden and soothing. But silence? Where was silence? It wasn't in the dining room, where there was always the sound of chopsticks and slurping and chewing and swallowing. What a noisy family! Silence wasn't in the bath, where even his toes made noise and little droplets of water kept dripping off his nose. Drip, drip, drip. That night, Yoshio tried to stay up late to catch the silence while his family slept. But his eyes got heavy, then heavier, and soon the sound of a distant radio became part of his dreams. The next morning, Yoshio woke up to his neighbor's dog barking and barking, and oh no! He had missed the silence. Yoshio walked to school early. His sisters whizzed by on their way to the park, screeching Yoshio's name. Where was silence? Yoshio heard the creak of the school gates as he pulled them open. No one was at school yet. He put on his inside shoes and listened as they shuffled across the shiny floor. The classroom felt different without anyone in it. He sat at his desk by the window and pulled out a book. He loved this story, and as he read, he forgot where he was. Suddenly, in the middle of a page, he heard it. No sounds of footsteps, no people chattering, no radios, no bamboo, no kotos being tuned. In that short moment, Yoshio couldn't even hear the sound of his own breath. Everything felt still inside him. Peaceful, like the garden after it snowed, like feather-stuffed futons drying in the sun. Silence had been there all along. It had been there between the thumps of his boots when he ran, when the wind stopped for just a moment in the bamboo grove, at the end of his family meal when everyone was happy and full, after the water finished draining from his bath, before the koto player's music began, and hovering in the air right after it ended. It was between and underneath every sound, and it had been there all along. Silence. The end.
I hope you enjoyed that story.
We've come to the end of story time, so let's sing our farewell song. We wave goodbye like this. We wave goodbye like this. We clap our hands for all our friends. We wave goodbye like this. Thank you for coming, friends, and I'll see you next time.